Today. If I can everybody rise, please. The Reverend is here to lead us in prayer today. Thank you for coming, Reverend.
Well, thank you for allowing me to pray. Also, please keep the family of Ray Lutz in your prayers. You understand he was a member of the Sheriff's Office. Family passed away unexpectedly, so let us go to the Lord. Lord our God, how majestic is your name in all the earth. We give you thanks because you are the one who created us. We pray that you will continue to guide those who are put in positions of government. Lord, we ask that you give the Commissioner's Court and the judge the wisdom to make the right decisions. And Lord, this morning we pray especially for the family of Ray Lutz, for his co-workers, and for all those that he was a good friend to, that you will be alongside them and give them your peace that surpasses all understanding. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend.
You're welcome, sir.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the regular Commissioners Court meeting for Thursday, April the 7th. Make a note that everybody's present but Commissioner Beck. And we're going to move on to the second item, discuss take possible action on approval of payroll 7 for the period ending April 1st.
I move we approve payroll number 7.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any other discussions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next we have personnel action forms. Glenda is at a conference, so I'll go through them. County Clerk Santiago Escobar, increase within approved slot. County Clerk Jalen Bada, increase within approved slot. District Judge Rachel Ramirez, temporary hire. Sorry. I'm going back to y'all's high school, I'm sorry. Randy Brown, David Fowler, transfer. And Sheriff Arthur Hoffman, new hire.
I move we approve the action for I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have discussed and take possible action on approval of the following Commission Court meeting minutes. We have March 10th in front of us. We do not have the 24th. Is that correct?
Yeah, something's wrong with the reporter.
So we're only, okay, so we're only going to do the 10th.
I will approve as written.
Second.
Second. Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we have discussed a possible action on the following grant-related items. Acceptance of grant award for the Office of Governor Body-worn cameras. Approved Department of State Health Services contract number, whatever y'all want to read that number. Amendment number 6, Public Health Emergency Preparedness. Authorization to apply for fiscal year 2021 SCAP grant funding. Authorization to apply for hazard mitigation grant for pandemic to purchase generators for the Medina County buildings. And the last one, authorization to apply for a grant with AEDG to purchase external defibrillator. Come on up and tell us about that. Okay?
Defibrillators.
Defibrillators. All right. Our chief health nurse, who rarely comes to court, has blessed us with her presence today, and she's going to tell us about defibrillators.
Defibrillators.
I've not been drinking either.
We'll just say AEDs. And so the grant didn't work out. It was actually just discounted pricing that was inflated. So I'm not going to look into that anymore, but I would like to continue looking into purchasing AEDs for county buildings and the sheriff's office and some patrol vehicles.
She wants to put one in every one of our buildings, which is probably a good safety idea.
Are we going to have personnel in the building that might be trained to use this, or is that something we need to look at?
The good thing is that I am an instructor for the American Heart Association, and I can train all our staff. I can specifically even give some certifications, and I will do the oversight on the AED program. So I will manage them.
So do you think you need more than one per building? Or?
It depends on the size of the building, but there'll probably be 2 in this building, upstairs and downstairs. Most buildings will be 1, it just depends, but we're looking at about 13 of them.
A battery and jumper cables do the same thing.
She's not trained on that.
Not trained on that
She's
one.
not trained on that, so.
Oh, that's
Probably not the jumper cables, but, yes, on the AEDs, I can manage the program and I can train, and that will save a lot of money for the county to just purchase them.
Thank you. Anybody have any
Any
questions?
questions?
So the motion's gonna include all but E. We're tabling E. Whoever wants to make that motion. Thank you, Trish.
I'll make a motion that we pursue action on the following grant-related items, A through D.
I second that.
Motion in a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have the county auditor's monthly report.
We're gonna table that, Judge.
Are we doing okay?
Yes.
We have money? All right. Okay. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
All right. Then we're gonna table number 6. We're going on to discuss take possible action on approval of accounts payables.
Yes, and I double checked to make sure these numbers were right. $616,576.35.
Okay.
Man, we spent a lot of fuel last week.
That must have filled up, that must have filled up.
Is fuel going down?
No, he, right.
Is it still called Royce Growth Oil now? Or are we writing checks to another company?
We are with Fuel Man and we're adding another,
Is the fuel man card's working?
yes and no. The sheriff's office keeps hitting the limit.
We have a limit on fuel man and we have gas at $4 a gallon, so
Yes,
can we
and
raise the limit?
Cynthia has been working on this nonstop since we got the notification from Royce Road. We have Fuel Man, they have given us 1 or 2 increases. We're also getting the P fleet card because with the gas prices, we're gonna need 2 cards.
Okay.
In a 2.5-day period this week, there was $3,400 worth of fuel purchased by one department. So,
He's got
but
40
we're
cars.
working on it. Cynthia stays on the phone and email with them, trying to get increases and get the P fleet card.
From fuel man.
No, the P fleet's totally different. We're gonna have 2 different fuel cards.
But they're getting gas. We're not having,
If they'll just give us a few days,
okay,
they can buy it again. We're reaching our limit again.
okay. And they're gonna raise the limit. That's what we're working on.
Not again. Not right now, not until we've had 3 months of.
Do they think we don't have good credit?
I'm sorry.
Do they think we don't have good credit? Or-
They know we have good credit, it's just their policy.
Wow.
And we've argued with them, and she's told me, the sheriff's deputies cannot go out and patrol without you,
Yeah,
but,
okay,
yeah.
perfect.
The answer to your question, I think it's going to go to Golden, am I right, it's going to go to Golden West?
Golden West and Triple S Fuels.
That's who's going to be the, that's what we write checks. I got to notice myself personally.
Do we have to go out and because I have an account with them, do you have to go redo your account with them?
They're asking you to just update it. I just got through it.
Update it?
Update your information. Yes.
All right.
For Royce?
For Royce?
Yeah.
For the wholesale stuff that we go.
You know, me personally, I'm going, they sent me a bill for Golden West.
I've got a question. Is that a vendor that is on an annual contract that we're working with?
Yes.
So if they're not being able to provide us fuel, is that a violation of their contract for the year? We're sending patrols out?
It's a credit card issue.
Yeah, this is totally different. We're talking, Royce is our bidder for the wholesale
Right.
stuff. We're talking retail at the Valley
The
Marts.
Valley Marts.
I got you.
Totally different animal. Because we have the right to go buy gas from anywhere because we don't bid that. And we do it with credit cards. We're just having a credit card problem. So we had to switch.
Just to clear there, Royce Roth had a credit card for Valley Mart. and after they sold out, they canceled that credit card. So we had to go out and get a fuel man credit card, and there's evidently a limit upon how much we can spend per month.
One of the companies I work for, the fuel man card is just it's a nightmare. It's a problem.
That's what they recommended, right?
Well, there's only two options. I called DPS and they gave me two options, Debbie, and I think I talked to you about.
And Peachly came from, I think you said the sheriff.
Sheriff, yeah, the sheriff called DPS to see what they use. He's, they're in the same boat.
So that's gonna be the two cards that everyone carries,
Okay.
until we can get, with the gas prices, the sheriff's office is going to be above our limits.
Well, the gas prices are gonna go down because they just drew out the reserves.
Yeah. You figure that out, yeah. We're gonna use that up.
Just until the election.
It's gonna drop like crazy.
$5.
I know, we take it up and give it to you at the end of the quarter.
I'll make a motion to approve accounts payable and then the next meeting sections. Second.
Motion and a second, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have to discuss take possible action on approval of disbursement of funds since the last Commissioner's Court.
Yes, utilities in the amount of $3,539.38.
I'll make the motion, we approve the disbursements of funds since last Commissioner's Court.
Second.
Motion and a second, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have visitors' public comment. Anybody?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Rogers, you got a public comment?
I have a public comment, but if you would like, I can wait till agenda item 25 on the next meeting.
No. That's fine. You gonna hang around?
Yes, I will.
All right, thanks. Then we are gonna stand in recess until 10 o'clock. Fast enough.
Good enough.
So, thank you. Oh. Welcome to the 10 o'clock session of the Commissioners Court for April 7th. And we've got some people outside. Let's bring them on in. We're going to do some recognition first. And I'll wait till they all come in before I do that. Who started without you? You can push it open. It should magnetize there. Come on, gentlemen, come up here in the front.
Come on up. We want you dead there in the middle.
Come on up.
The camera said they wanted to hit it right there in the middle.
Right in the middle.
Right up here. Just line up right here as if you're going to pose for a picture, okay? Yeah, let's get everybody up here. Y'all guys.
This is our 24-hour crew.
Yes.
Oh, okay, good.
Chief Cook, come up here with them. So, as y'all know, we had a horrible fire this past 2 weeks ago, and everybody in this community came together and did an outstanding job. Chief Cook over here is the ESD chief for ESD 1 in Castroville. He did an outstanding job leading the firefighting part. The Forest Service from Texas A&M came down and they did an outstanding job. We had firefighter units from 19 different? 19 plus or minus. We had people from all over, as far away as Border, Texas. They were from East Texas, West Texas, and they all came together and fought fires. These gentlemen in front of you work for Medina County, precincts 1 and 2. And every time I was there was at least probably half of these guys were there. They spent the night there. They worked. They made sure there was fuel in all the tanks of all the diesel equipment and everything else, the gas equipment. These guys were, in whatever needed to be done, these guys were there to support it, and I just wanted to recognize them. We want to recognize them for an outstanding job and thank them for their service to fighting this disaster and helping to prevent it from getting any worse. But and of course, Commissioner Sitter and Commissioner Newman were there whenever I was there. DPS sergeants and everybody else. It was just an incredible amount of people and an incredible organization. And if you go up to Cross Mountain Ranch, what is it? High Mountain Ranch. Just, it's worth driving through there to see how they stopped fires from burning more houses. There's 40 houses in there, 37 of them were untouched, and the way the firefighters and everything did it was incredible. It was just an incredible combination of people, and I just want to thank all you guys here for your dedicated service in doing this. So, thank you.
Get each one to introduce themselves as they come all the way around here. So we got a mixture of people. And all I add to this, Judge, there was never a question when we made a phone call, we had crews there. We had backup crews there. And I'm talking about, this is 24-hour shifts. They would come in at 12 o'clock at night or leave at 6 o'clock the next morning. We had somebody there 24 hours a day. These people were in the middle of it. I mean, there's food delivered, water delivered, you name it. Chris kind of hit it on all. If I'm not mistaken, we have about 210 firefighters on the ground, and this is what supplied food, water. When I said one day, one fireman had a flat tire, y'all were fixing the flat tire on a man's car. So that's what this crew's dedication to the county is. It's just heart-wrenching how a community can come together so quick and get done what these people have done. I'm talking about the whole county level all the way down. We're working with federal people, state people. It was amazing. The fire chief, he's only 3 months on the job, and we put him, well, I'd say through the rear. Yeah, I think we're going to be around a while. But anyhow, why don't you start on one end and let them come on across?
Okay. So, my name is Clint Cook. I am the fire chief from Medina County, ESD number 1, where we currently cover from north of the Bandera County line all the way south of the Falls, the Bandera County line, over about Dudley, 254 square miles. We're in a kind of a transition period. And, so this, for me, it was great to see because obviously there's not a whole lot of disasters that take place right now. Emergency management, what Keith Lutz did, and organizing and kind of being, that's what emergency management's for, the emergency management coordinator. They are the direct line to the state of Texas, but to handle the other side of it, to make sure that we never ran out of fuel, those are the ancillary pieces that are huge when it comes to emergencies. And I can tell you, we didn't have a plan in place yet on how we would handle fuel, how we would handle making sure all the facilities were there. And so even without a specific written out plan, everything just fell together the way it should. And it was impressive for me to see. I was glad. I'm thrilled to be here. So that's enough for me.
Go ahead. Start in the back.
Don Huddick, I work for Precinct 1.
Mike Mullins, Precinct 1. I'm 2, excuse me.
Precinct 2.
Eric Kelly, Precinct 2.
Bobby Gibb, Precinct 1. Richard Torres, Precinct 2. John Newton, Precinct 1.
Wes Louis, Precinct 1.
Carol Moran, Precinct 2.
Richard Johnson, Precinct 1.
Russell Bailey, Precinct 1.
Clarence Zismar, Precinct 1.
Nacho Bermea, Precinct 1.
Eddie Hernandez, Precinct 2.
I'm Chori. I'm working for Precinct 2, Medina County. Jimmy Bormans, Precinct 2.
And all I say, when my credit card comes in, don't say a word.
Hey. Believe it or not, the first day it's like they asked me, do I have my credit card? I said, no. Jennifer won't let me have it unless I get, needed to go somewhere. So Newman didn't have his, Sitter had his. So Sitter took the brunt of it, all right, and thank you. But also, just so y'all know, next week we're going to try, the Sheriff's Department couldn't make it here, but the Sheriff's Department, their people were 24/7 protecting houses and taking care of the business. Keith Lutz did an outstanding job. So the sheriff and his people, we're going to try to have them here next week. So, because there's just not enough recognition to go around for what these gentlemen did and what they did, and it's it makes you proud not only to be somebody from Medina County, to have people like this with you, but it makes you proud to be a Texan, because people came from everywhere to fight that fire, and I couldn't be more proud of my state. And I hope, as I heard this morning, those people from California don't want to come here. They don't have to. So we got great people here, and we can keep them. So thank you guys. Thank y'all very much. Well, wait. Y'all come together. We got to y'all got to huddle. Come on around. Move. Yeah, come up here. Hey, y'all, some of y'all can come up here. Shoot. There. Come on up.
Shorty, get in the front. No, Shorty, get in the front.
Better get in the front.
Yeah, he better be out front, him and anybody. Get Rich down.
Squeeze together. Come on, guys. Y'all ride close together. Don't try.
Let them run together.
Big brotherly love in there.
Watch out for Johnny.
Break the camera.
Cheeseburger.
Or fuzzy pickles, whichever you want. Hang on, keep what you got, and I'm sure got everybody. And everybody's smiling, or, Mr. Sitter, can you scoot that? Just a
If you can't see the camera, you're not in the picture, all right?
It didn't work. I got a glare in front of me.
Oh, it would help if I hit the one.
Moon, I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, well, I got room to talk.
Moon's putting the glare on the camera.
I know it's probably a shock, but look at me, okay, or the camera. Okay, got everybody.
All right, thank you guys. Leonard, take care of it.
Judge, I think there were 2 units similar to our A&M Forest Service, Mr. Wetstead with National Forest Service.
Chief Cook can answer that question.
There were 2 from this units, one from Michigan and one from Minnesota.
So due to the heightened fire danger in Texas, those units are resourced to Texas. So think of it like we rented them. Their unit didn't exactly come.
Oh, okay.
They brought those people, assigned them to the state, and they became state assets.
Oh.
So it was 100% a state disaster. So while there were federal teams and teams from out of state, they weren't assigned here as a federal asset or resource. They were the state of Texas rented them under the state umbrella.
And they go around and do this year round.
They do. And so the biggest thing is Texas has something, so all your local, when you saw all the small Texas fire departments there, so Texas has a system called TIFMAS, T-I-F-M-A-S, which stands for Texas Fire Mutual Aid System. So departments belong to this, and so when Texas needs additional resources, they call all the fire departments in Texas and say, hey, what can you send in each region of Texas? Now I can send you one brush truck, and they all get together and form a team, and that's what those strike teams are for. So, and then when there's no disasters taking place, they're at their home base, they're not part of Texas. So,
Thanks.
any other questions?
I'll call.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now with that, we're gonna move on to, the first item on the agenda, public hearing. Receive comment regarding vacate and replat of lot 38 Mountain Valley Ranch subdivision located in precinct 1 off private road 2532. Is there anybody here for that? Would you mind moving that back to the middle? Edward will help you. Thank you. Okay, we are going to close the public hearing if there's nobody here for that, right? And we're going to go on to item number 11, discuss take possible action on final approval of vacate and replat of lot 38 Mountain Valley Ranch subdivision.
Yes, sir. So I'm Kim, and is this somebody's?
I don't know whose that is.
That's a reporter.
Oh,
Yeah, well, this is okay, Ken.
We know plenty of her.
yeah.
We're still seeking just final approval on a replat of lot 38, Mountain Valley Ranch. It's fronting actually two private roads, two 23-acre tracts.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
No, that meets all our requirements.
All right.
So I'll make the motion we approve the final, that they could replat about 38.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Motion is second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Kim.
I have the next.
Oh, you got the next one too?
Yes, sir.
All right, hang around then. Discuss take possible action on approval of the following preliminary plats locating precinct 3 off of County Road 640, Owlfield subdivisions, Cody Crossing subdivision, Arroyo Crossing subdivision, and Bronco Fields subdivision.
Yes, sir. So these are all out of the same parent tract. Rory Ryan, the developer, bought this property, 134 acres, and he has sold off a couple of large tracts that he's not platting, but then he wanted. These are all separate subdivisions out of that property. And I did visit with Commissioner Lynch last Friday. We went over each one. They're going to be doing private wells and septic systems. They're mostly 3-acre tracts, each one of them. There's a few that are a little bit more, maybe 4 acre and 3.5.
Yeah.
And they all front on a county road and they...
They're all front county roads, they're all 3 acres. The Yancey water is right there in the area, however, he wants to pass these as
Private well.
private well subdivision,
Okay.
that's why the 3 acre,
Then,
yeah.
okay.
So, yeah, they meet our specs. So I'm going to move that we approve the following preliminary plats, A, B, C, and D.
Okay. Why does he divide them up? He just like to make names of subdivisions up?
I asked that question too, so.
You know, well, some of them are owned by a different entity.
Oh, okay.
Some are Layla Investments, some are Petersol, 3000, something. So just to differentiate that they don't, in the 12-acre tracts that he's subdividing into 3-acre tracts, they don't actually touch.
Okay.
So it was just a way to.
It's a little odd.
Hey, Kim, what are we doing for fire protection this thing?
I don't know. I'll need to find out from.
Because after this last fire, the subdivision had nothing in it. And I think every subdivision should have something in it. You know,
Okay.
whether it's a storage tank with a water well on it or something to where fire department can get into there and get water.
Absolutely.
That question came up, and I went and got our regs to look, and the best I can decipher, you gotta have 15 or more lots that are not serviced by a public water system.
So now he split everything up in 4 and 5 acre lots to the first.
I don't think it was to get by that, because that never hardly ever comes up, but yes, in essence, it does inadvertently get by that reg,
Since this is less than 15.
because they're all less than
or
15 lots. So we talk about fire protection regulations, but we don't address if there is a public water system, We don't address what they have to do.
Yeah.
All we address is what the subdivision has to do if there is no public water system. So all these subdivisions that have public water systems, we don't have anything in our regs that says anything about fire, how many hydrants or anything else that I've found. All we address is storage tanks if there is no public water system. But our minimum lot number is 15. So you're right, this inadvertently falls underneath that.
Well, we're on a preliminary right now,
Correct.
and we can, maybe you can talk to him about what he wants to do about fire protection.
Well, the trouble with this, Chris, he busted this thing up in 4 different names, which to me is a sham.
Well, let's just talk
Something
to him
wrong
about it and
here.
see what he
Something wrong
wants to do,
here,
right?
this though.
Because we're doing a preliminary right now, so let's just see
Yeah.
what he's willing to do. Can we do that?
And who is this guy?
Roy Ryan, we've done several developments. He's been into Commissioner's Court before. We've done
Okay.
several.
Before we do the final, we'd like to hear from him on what he wants to do about some type of fire protection, okay?
Okay.
He's gonna throw our rules right back in our face.
Well,
Yeah.
but we can discuss that, all right?
Okay, well, the next thing, the next commissioner court meeting, let's address that issue. It can't go no further.
We need to address that in our subdivision rules. We're
Exactly.
not quite, 'cause
There's some other stuff we need to change.
considering we just had a big fire, we need to make sure we're better up to date on it, okay?
Yes.
So do you want to
I
approve
do
it?
make a motion to approve the preliminary, and then we can discuss that.
Okay,
Second.
motion and second, any other discussion?
Yes, sir, some more discussion.
Okay.
Thank God we had this fire and nobody got killed. The first thing that came to me and the other commissioner knew was, this can't happen again, not in Medina County. It's not gonna happen on my watch. There's some state laws we gotta follow, but there's some other county laws that we are gonna put in place to make sure this thing, if we could have been disastrous, had no water supply within this subdivision other than wells. Once the fire burned down the telephone poles, every electric line, telephone line they had in there, these people back here were helpless. It's not gonna happen on my watch. ever.
Fortunately, we had a lake next door.
Thank God we had a lake, and they complained about us getting water out of the lake, because the lake was going dry. So, yes, this here came on his mind and mine. I had a map of this thing, I should have brought it with me. These people were virtually, if that fire would have went around another quarter of a mile without the air support, we'd have had a whole bunch of people trapped inside the subdivision with no water. You know, it's not that we want to be mean, it just makes the right sense. I'm not here to okay a subdivision for somebody not to follow not a county rule, but a conscience rule to save money. That's what this is.
Makes sense.
Okay. Any other discussion?
That's enough for me.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
Next, we have discussed a possible action on preliminary approval of vacating a portion of Block 15 San Antonio Trust subdivision, creating lots 1 through 4 in the Cantu subdivision. Mr. Allen, come on down. Hi.
Gary Allen, Allen Associates, Land Surveyors. I want to present for preliminary approval this subdivision of 4 tracts containing about 3 3/4 acres. Total area of the property is just under 15 acres. The property is located northwest of Devine, off of west of 5710, and it fronts on 2 county roads, County Road 665 on the north, County Road 6614 on the south. 2 lots will front County Road 665, and 2 lots will front County Road 6614.
Okay. Anybody any questions? Mr. Cheers?
This, I believe, is precinct 4.
Okay.
I'll make it, did Jerry have any comment? Did he know this is on?
Have you talked to Commissioner
I have
Beckman?
not talked to
Okay.
Commissioner.
Well, it's a preliminary approval, so if y'all think it's,
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we grant the preliminary approval for vacating a portion of Block 15.
Does Mr. Beck even know that subdivision exists?
It's part of that San Antonio Trust, it's that.
Well, it don't matter.
thing.
No, he's
Still
talking
subdivision.
about this,
Well,
Huh?
you're talking about this plat?
Yeah, this one here.
I've not talked to him. I'm actually working for the Realtor. Hired me, Cindy Gonzalez with Morales Realty, and she's in contact with Mr. Cantu. I've not spoken with him directly.
You know, and it does say in our rules, it's supposed to be contacted, the first point of contact is a commissioner. I'm on a rant here, and I'll tell you what, we need to tighten stuff up. I would say table this until Jerry Beck gets back.
I can withdraw my
I
motion.
hate to tell you this, but Commissioner Beck is going to throw it back on me. He does it all the time.
So you don't,
That is
nobody calls him.
If you
happened
call
because
him, he tells everybody to call me. So, and this is a vacate replat, I figured it's kind of a,
Yeah, unbelievable.
All right, so we,
Looking at it, it meets our requirements, whether Jerry has approved it or not, unless our subdivision coordinator sees something that looks out of line. I will go ahead and,
I said it needed to be.
I'll have
done.
my motion stand as a preliminary approval.
okay, have a second.
Second.
Motion is second, any other discussion? You may want to reach out to Jerry Beck.
absolutely.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have discussed a possible action. Thank you very much, Gary. Discussing possible action on final approval of the Carroll Pass subdivision located in precinct 3. Come on up.
So we have a final plat, construction plan approval for Carroll Pass subdivision located about 400 miles north of Natalia, off of County Road 6710. It's roughly a 20-acre property, single cul-de-sac street, 17 1-acre lots.
The drama continues on this one.
Yes.
We are looking for dates of when we went from 24 feet width of pavement to 28 feet wide, and we're having trouble locating that. Mr. Baca, who's the engineer, has documents showing that when this was approved preliminary, that as a prelim, that it was 24 feet.
Correct.
Correct? At some point after that, we have changed to 28 feet, and then we revised our regulations again to make it 24 feet if the lots were larger or equal to 3 acres, which these are not. So technically, this would stand, as our subdivision regs are written to date, that the road needs to be 28 feet. It is not 28 feet, it is 24 feet, which is what they were operating under. The assumption was that that's what our regs were.
When they got the preliminary approval. Is that what you're saying?
We're trying hard to figure that out when that changed, but yes, that is what we are assuming. It is a private road subdivision, which again is going to bring up a whole nother question that maybe we need to discuss. He's discussed with the developers HOA and POA, and that is in the development, but we don't regulate that in our subdivision regulations. We don't regulate their rules, and we don't regulate them even forming it. So we probably need to address that in some kind of a workshop so that when we tell the developers, look, you're going to have an HOA or a POA because we're not going to take over maintenance of these streets, they say, yes, we'll do that. And then they may do it and they may not do it. We don't have the documentation that it's been formed on a small subdivision like this. And we don't have anything in our subdivision regulations that gives us oversight on that.
Which brings up the second question, and that is, there's 17 lots, no fire protection.
No fire protection.
Is there fire protection?
There's,
It
has water.
It is serviced by a public water system.
Okay.
But here again, that brings up the question.
Does it have a meter? Does it have a fire outlet?
East Medina have.
I was there yesterday, I didn't see no fire blow.
East Medina doesn't allow.
There's a blow off, there's a 2-inch blow off at the end of the subdivision, but there's no fire
allow
blow.
fire hydrants, they only allow flush valves. East Medina only allows flush valves.
So you're gonna use a flush valve for fire department?
So you can fill up a water truck with a flush valve, yes, sir.
So,
Is that correct?
so they use that, so the term flush valve is used synonymously at times because somewhere along the line, correct me if I'm wrong, attorneys got involved and said, well, if you call it a fire hydrant, if something doesn't work right, they're gonna judge you differently,
You gonna blame it on lawyers? Really?
right?
Yeah, so you can
So-
tell you right now, if they won't allow fire hydrants, if you
They're
want a
not.
fire hydrant, they're making a spray paint.
They work?
Which is too
So,
much, if you spray paint a fire
In
hydrant,
order,
it doesn't work.
in order to be a certified fire hydrant, in order to really meet the NFPA standard, it would have to have a certain flow, 500 gallons per minute flow, would have to have battery backup on the system, so if the power is out, the pump still run, that type of fire.
East Medina and Yancey Water only allow in their rules that you can fill out the truck. Because of the flow, they will not guarantee the 500 gallons a minute flow where you can hook a pumper truck up and use it. So you can only fill out those flush valves. We're doing a subdivision now, we put fire hydrants in that subdivision for fire use. They are gonna be painted black, but they are only for fill only.
Okay. And I don't believe our regs address fire plugs or flush valves or anything if there's a public water system. All we address is storage tanks if there is no water system. So the fact that they're serviced by a water system means that, according to our regs, that's all we require.
And the engineering design on it, we've put a flush valve in there specifically to fill up.
Okay. Yeah. So we probably need to address that too if we want to demand something, but as we're hearing, they're probably not going to do
It won't
it.
affect this, but it'll affect the
Your
future
small water
if we start doing
repairs
something.
won't be able to provide the flow for a true fire hydrant.
So even though we think we've got some good subdivision regs and it's been a lot of time doing it, there's obviously a couple of things we probably still need to address in a workshop atmosphere.
Jennifer will put that together.
Okay, the next question was, is this a proper road or not?
They've been told that the current makeup of the court is probably not going to accept it for maintenance. And that's been very clear to Mr. Baca and the developer. So
Developers understand.
is that going to
the issue
be
of maintaining.
the buyers that buy these lots having some kind of an HOA or a POA that they are joining, knowing that they're going to be assessed some kind of a fee is important, and we don't regulate that in our regulations.
Well, no, I think we should require that.
We can require it. We do not have to.
I would say that
Anyway.
you need to tell before we approve this, you need to tell your developer that it's a private road and he needs to have some mechanism set in place to assess fees, so they have, and it's usually through a homeowners association or property owners association, and it's for the purpose of maintaining those roads, because 10 years from now, I know I'm not going to be here. These guys may still be here, all right? But
And she's under the understanding, and she's been told from day one from Christian Lights that they're going to have a HOA or POA established for it. The county subdivision regulations right now do not require that document to be in hand for.
well, I think we can make that a requirement. If she's been told that, we should make it a requirement in this motion.
Okay, and the next question is, other than that, I just want to let you know, him and me, up to here, they say 3 or 4 months ago, and it probably had gained 3,000 or 4,000. We have 13,800 lots on the ground. We're not taking care of 1 square foot of that. Everyone's set up. And I'm not going to have to go down here on a piece of property I inherited through redistricting and okay this before taking maintenance on it. My next question is, and I'm an advocate, do they do geotexting on this road?
I've got that information.
Everything's been tested, yes, sir.
Okay, what was the PI on the materials? Do you have any idea?
I can pull it up.
The PI, plastic index? You know what that plastic index is? Are you a geotech engineer or just draw lines?
No, sir, we're full service.
No, there is a difference.
We're a
Well,
full
no,
service
I know that.
engineering firm where we've hired a geotech engineer specifically to go in and do a pavement design on this property. A third-party geotech engineering company has come in and tested subgrade 1 per every 500 foot base asphalt.
Okay, do you know what the lower densities was on the PI?
I can look up off the top of my head.
Yeah,
I don't know.
you
I assume it's.
Because I'm going through this with 2 other subdivisions right now, and after I told them that they're going to be responsible for the asphalt, they have not come back to commissioner court.
Right, no, it's fully designed by a geotechnical engineering company to meet the PI of that soil, and it's
I mean, we got some PIs out there, anywhere from 40 to 80 PIs. I was wondering if they use lime, because I just put down
It's
about $250,000 for lime.
It's GeoGrid.
Y'all use GeoGrid?
Using GeoGrid.
That's
yes,
a
sir.
fantastic project.
With the, it's a 2-inch hot mix.
Perfect. GeoGrid's good stuff. That helps. It helps a lot.
Are we gonna make a motion?
I'll follow your motion, David.
Subject, yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve the final, subject to an HOA or a POA being formed and us having the documentation that that's been done.
So we get that for you.
And we probably need to change that as something in our subdivision.
We do.
Instead of us
And I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let him know.
Yep.
All right, next we have discussing possible action on ratification of approval of electric and gas line right-of-way agreement with CPS on, for the Castle Med Clinic. This is something you've already, I need your motion.
I'll make a motion that we allow electrical gas lines for the right-of-way agreement for city public service for the Castle Medical Clinic.
Second.
Motion is second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have discussing possible action on a rate increase from Medina County Collection Station for the South Texas Refuge Disposal. Freddie came in to see me last week, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Basically, he's been charging us $6,500 a month to handle those 8 stations for years, and because of costs and everything else, he is asking that we go up to $8,500.
Wasn't this supposed to come up for bids a while back for other companies to?
We can put it out for bids. Did we ever go out for bids on this?
No.
That was not in a long time ago.
'Cause actually, the guy that would have bid on it now works for Freddie.
Yeah.
What's his name? He was there too.
Late season.
Blake.
Just make a motion.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll make a motion to approve the.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say.
Whoa.
Whoa.
While we're doing that, looking at the map where you see where these collection sites are, they're all, except for Tim's being north of Highway 90, they're all kind of in the southeast corner. I mean, if you split Medina County into 4 quadrants, they're either bordering the eastern line or the southern line.
I got 2 sides of the line.
Yeah, and Devine's got one down there, and there's one in Yancey. There's nothing to the west, and there's not that many people up in the northwest, but I'm thinking that maybe one in the Dehennis area, possibly.
Okay.
Maybe middle of the county, we might want to talk about that and have him bid on 6 sites.
You can take the one out of my yard and move it to his.
You can have it.
No, I like the one in your yard.
Yeah, I bet you do.
Why don't you reach out to Freddie and just see
Well,
what we can do?
if we want to agree on 6 sites instead of 5 sites.
Well, we can approve this and we can always come back.
That's fine.
But it's not been discussed.
Okay.
So if you want to reach out to him and tell him what you want to do, I'm sure he'll be amenable to it.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have discussing possible action on the Xerox agreement number. You can read the number with Quality Print Solutions for the district clerk's office.
I'll make the motion and we approve it.
Second.
Motion and second.
Did I miss it or did we skip?
Oh, I'm sorry. We tabled 15 and 16.
Okay.
Sorry. They're coming up on 4/21. I should have made that announcement, but thank you. You made a motion? And you
I'll
second?
second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have discussing possible action on the expansion of the Public Defender's Office and the grant for the Public Defender's Office. We had a workshop 2 weeks ago to talk about the Public Defender's Office. Mr. Bull and Ms. Hasty are both here. Darcy sits on the board. John Bull is the Chief Public Defender. The situation has become probably more untenable with Kirk County being the administrative arm. And I think all of us agree that it's in our best interest if we Medina County will withdraw from the Hill Country Public Defender's Office and join with Atascosa, Wilson, Carnes, and Frio. Bandera is probably going to join with us. So that's where we're at. We have a meeting on the 20th of next week. I've already informed the head of our Hill Country that it's just not working as long as Kirk County insists on being the home office. And it's difficult for Mr. Bull to get his job done because of the micromanaging that they do to him. And it would be so much easier if somebody that didn't make his job difficult, because his job is to be a public defender, not be an administrator of going to court and getting beat up all the time. Any comments over there?
That pretty well covers it.
Did I cover it well?
And I'm in agreement.
Yeah.
Well, I thought you liked Kirk County.
So the motion is to allow me the ability to in discussion, say we're getting out and we're going, and I'm going to tell you the offer I made to them. The offer I made was Medina County will be the admin arm of this. Okay, I've talked to Edward, because the biggest workload I think comes from the auditor and probably HR, because there's 40 or 50 people, 30 to 50, depending on who comes. But I think Treasurer's Office is probably less affected because they pay the bills. But I've made the offer to them that Medina County will withdraw. And Judge Evans told me yesterday he's coming with me. John is going to stay with us. And we'll be those 6 counties that I just mentioned. Or if they're willing to give up the admin, they all can come, but we're going to be the admin arm of it. Because every meeting we go to, Darcy, John, every meeting we go to, all we hear is complaints from Carl on how much work it is. And yet they're not willing to give it up. And I think we're all pretty had it with having to deal with that, because it shouldn't be that hard.
Okay, instead of use and expand, do you want to put in there for you to negotiate?
Just authorize me.
Office grant, period.
Yeah, to the expansion. We are expanding. We're expanding south, and it may not be Hill Country. It'll be some other name.
Is that the word you use?
To allow me the authority to work on expansion and changes in the public defender's office.
Public defender's office. How's
That sounds great.
I will make a motion to let the county judge do what's necessary to restructure the public defender's office and grant for public defender's office.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Does that work for y'all? He can restructure it however he wants to. If the banner wants to stay in, that's fine too. Or if anybody else wants to.
Yeah. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, guys. Next, we have discussed a possible action on quotes and authorization to purchase a backhoe for Precinct 1.
Yeah, we have, I went to 3 major companies that we usually buy equipment from, and I want to authorize the purchase of a backhoe from John Deere, RDO Equipment Company.
I will second that.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion?
And I'll buy your other one from you if you don't want it.
$1 million.
You know what, that's a good deal. We got any more? Does he have any of that tan left?
Any more than
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have discussed and take possible action on Precinct 1 borrowing funds from the 2020 TAN to purchase the backhoe.
Similar to Precinct 2 and Precinct 3, Precinct 1 is requesting to borrow from that TAN has authorized us to.
I just bought a truck. Can I borrow from it too?
Commissioner would have to.
I'd say don't print that, but he's already recorded it, so it's too late.
For the record, the auditor did say no.
Oh, you just say no. Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion?
I made the
I'll
motion.
make a second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have discussed a possible action on authorization to publish for public hearing to reduce the speed limit on a portion of County Road 446 from Highway 173 to County Road 542.
Okay, so in this section, we had a little school that popped up there. So now we have a building with a bunch of kids in there. It's a Christian academy school.
Okay.
So speed limit is 40, so we need to reduce it down to 30.
Okay.
Do 25, if you don't want to. That school's only go down to 20.
Well, that might be too silly.
Well, I mean,
If you could do it for the whole road.
You can do a portion of it.
yeah, you can do a portion.
Is that what you're doing?
This is just advertising.
This is just advertised for it.
All right. Do you want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion, we authorize to reduce the speed on the
Public hearing?
public hearing.
Okay.
Second.
Motion is second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have discussed take possible action on authorization to publish for no-through trucks on portion of 446 from 173 to 542. You want to publish for a public hearing on that too, right?
Yes, so I'll authorize the publish for no-through trucks.
Second.
Make a motion in a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have discussed take possible action on the warranty repairs to the courthouse parking annex. Mr. Rogers, do you have something you would like to say about that?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Judge, Commissioners, for allowing me to speak today.
By the way, you have 3 minutes, so.
I'll make it quick. I was summoned to jury duty back in January. Came to this nice facility, beautiful place, everything's nice. In the parking lot as I entered, I was very upset. I have been a paving contractor since '92. I've previously worked for my grandfather for 17 years. Before that, I've been in commercial construction all my life. And the concrete curbing and the paving on this project are simply not acceptable to the taxpayers of this county. The curb reveal on any of this curb in the whole parking lot goes from 11 inches to 4 inches. There is no common denominator, a 6-inch reveal curb on any of this parking lot. I walked into the front of the building, there's ponding water through a concrete drainage trough coming into the main part of the building. Cold joints on the butt joints, they will stumble an elderly person. Paving is rattling up. It's just got numerous problems. I don't know the architect, I don't know the engineer, I don't know the contractor. All I know is what I've learned to do all my life, and this is not an acceptable project. I strongly suggest y'all have somebody do something about it. I've read a few emails that say a fog seal will correct all the issues. I actually watched 3 people, 3 ladies, pull into this parking lot and destroy the front of their car from hitting the curb that was almost 9 inches tall. It is not acceptable. I feel very strongly. I have not contacted you, Judge, but I contacted Commissioners Newman and Sitter about this issue, and I hope you'll get something resolved. But it's not an easy fix. It needs to be corrected.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, with that, we have Gary McClure, who you all know works for us. Gary has been meeting with our engineer. Please tell us your name.
My name is Jeff Leaf.
Jeff Leaf. And then we know Robert Warner, who is the superintendent of the project. And I'll just preface it by saying that the contractor, who was the contractor?
For which portion?
For the parking lot.
Hill Country Consolidated.
Okay.
They did the earthwork and utilities.
Robert, you've been in touch with them, right?
Yes.
Which one of y'all want to start first? Because we have a map that you put together, right, Jeff?
I put together parts of this.
Okay. Do you want to come up and tell us what you have gone out and checked on now? Just so y'all know, Jeff is the engineer hired by the architect, so he is technically our engineer on this project, and is as designed as well as the architects have hired him to design those things, or his firm. So, go ahead.
We have reviewed the parking lot construction, and we had some cores taken of the pavement to determine thickness and densities. There are a number of problems. We've got areas where we'll start with the ADA parking spaces. None of your ADA spaces are actually ADA compliant. They're all too steep.
They're all too what?
It's too steep.
Too steep.
ADA allows a maximum slope of 2.0% in any direction. There's some of these which I believe are up to close to 5 or 4.5%. So none of them are ADA compliant. So what they have to do there is remove the pavement, come back in, raising the pavement up, and taper it down into the adjoining spaces in the driveway in order to get those areas up to 2%. That'll also address one of the areas we know where there's a very thin pavement. There's actually a spot on your southeast ADA spaces where you can see the dirt through the pavement. It's that thin.
It's on the election side, Judge.
Yes.
So that's one issue. Then there's the issue of the raveling of the pavement. That's the aggregate coming loose, primarily because, well, it can happen for a couple of reasons, but usually it's because the pavement gets too cool while it's being rolled. The temperature isn't maintained. The plan for those areas is to heat the pavement and add additional material over it. We want to heat the existing so that the new stuff will bounce to it better, to improve that condition of that surface, get rid of the rattling, smooth out the rough surfaces. There are two of the driveways, North Drive and the South Drive, on the west side of the site where the intent is to actually remove all of the asphalt and redo those in order to get the pavement in better condition and to eliminate some ADA compliance issues. And especially on the North Drive, there's actually a pretty good drop-off if you're actually trying to go out that drive, where you go from the asphalt down onto the sidewalk.
Which the city is waiting on us to fix that, right? Because they haven't connected to us yet, right over here.
Let's see, that was raveling, pavement joints. Pavement joints also need to be reworked to get rid of level them out, get rid of the sharp angles that you have in some of those. And there's also one issue which it's over here on the east side of the building where there's a sidewalk drain that dumps out into the parking lot. And then it drains across the parking lot, and there's a cut through the parking lot to continue on out. And the water doesn't flow exactly the way it's supposed to. It actually drains somewhat to the south and then drains back to the north to go through there. And it's resulting in a small amount of ponding in there. It's one of those things we've been discussing the best solution for it, because it's very shallow ponding, and it's not something that's going to stay there for very long. It will drain out. So we could go in there and remove that asphalt and repave that to get it to be exactly the way it was supposed to be in the design. The downside to doing that is that then we're going to create two additional seams in the asphalt where we have the potential for water infiltration through those seams. Considering that it is a small volume of water, I think my personal recommendation would be to just leave it as it is, because it's not, it's not in the main pedestrian, it's not in the pedestrian walk paths, and it's a small volume of water that does drain out.
The problem with that is you're still getting the moisture there, and as traffic goes across this, it gets soft. It's going to finally, you get potholes.
Well, that's why one of the things we're proposing to do is, after these other modifications are made to get the ADA slopes to be correct, take care of the raveling in those spots, fix up the seams, we're proposing to put a fog seal down on the entire thing. The function of a fog seal is to fill the surface voids in order to keep the water from percolating down into the pavement. So that's what we're proposing to do to keep the water out. We're proposing to do it per textile specifications.
I understand all the specs of fog seal. We use fog seal ourselves quite a bit through the county. If you have a compaction problem, and if you're gonna keep having traffic running back and forth on it, that fog seal is only gonna last a matter of time. It's kind of like a little bit less than a Band-Aid. And it does work for temporary for a while. I personally have been in this business my whole entire life. I've done nothing else. I'm not a car salesman, I'm not a doctor. I didn't go to A&M. I've been into road construction my whole
Go to law school?
Didn't even go to law school. They wouldn't let me in that place. I need a lawyer. I need that defending lawyer we got. But anyhow, where I'm at on subdivisions, and I'm a critic, this ain't gonna have my name on it the rest of my life, just like these parking lots right here. This is gonna be ours. Something we're gonna be proud of. One of the first subdivisions I had was Petranca Ranch. Here they come in, and they put in these big, beautiful cul-de-sacs, all paved, and I said, okay, I want to check the runoff, no problem. He set up a laser level. He told his man to go get a deal so I could walk around and make sure all this drained. I said, no, we're not going to do that. I said, see that old junk water truck you got over there? Go fill it up with water. He said, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to check your drainage. We drove over there and dropped 500 gallons of water in it. We had 250 gallons that wouldn't drain out. We ripped the whole thing out and rebuilt it. You know what? I have had no problem with that contractor since. But he's out there with a water truck checking his grades. I feel the same about this courthouse. There's more people come to this courthouse, and I told the judge the first week I drove in here, this is a disaster. All the curbs everywhere, there's nowhere to park. You can't park your pickup truck. And that's just part of the problem we got. And the next part of the problem, we got curbs sticking out of the ground that high. It's just, we got a mess here. Other than fog sealing and going down and tapping a little bit of rock down, trying to make it a little bit thicker in low spots. We got a mess here. And like I say, I don't know who you work for, I don't care, but we have enough professionals in Medina County to know it's not done right.
That's correct.
And I think we need to have you here say, hey, this is what needs to be done. We got a major mess out here. Let's fix it. That's what I'm hoping to hear from you every time you walk out of here, not patch this and patch that and try to level out something else.
So my day is, we paid all the money for a parking lot, and now you're recommending doing patchwork on a brand new parking lot. We've been here since the end of September, and this thing's unraveling in 5 months, the way it's doing. There ain't no way you're gonna get that parking lot hot enough to do what you wanna do. There's no way you're gonna get
360 degrees.
You got 350 degrees, you're gonna have to get that thing hot. You ain't doing it with a blowtorch. And putting asphalt on top of that ain't gonna work either. It's gonna slide on you.
Has anybody done any vertical control to check to see if the grades that are in place are what was proposed on the plan?
There has not been an as-built survey performed on the site.
I would probably recommend that happen first because evidently something's wrong with the contours of the curb compared to the contours of the pavement, because your thicknesses for your contours for your base course are obviously not correct compared to what your curb is poured in.
We also aren't sure about, it could be that the base isn't correct, or it could be that, well, in some areas, where you've got, let's say, 9 inches of exposed curb, that's almost certainly that the base have an issue. But if you've got the areas also where you've got very little curb, it may simply be that there's too much base down there.
I probably could load a model in a GPS and walk this site and I'd have 10 coordinates that are on grade. Just by looking at eye according to the curve.
Right.
And that's not built to the plans and specs.
Right. The asphalt varies a great deal, as we're saying, in terms of the exposure of the curb, which indicates that there was an issue. It could be, as you said, it could be too little base, too much base, too thin asphalt, too thick asphalt.
Yeah, I'm not pointing fingers at who created the problem. All I know is it's not acceptable for the county to accept this job the way it's been done.
Could it also be that the curbs are not set at the right elevation to begin with?
That's possible, but in general, what you do is you set your curves, and then you
Build to that.
you build to the curve, exactly.
I'm gonna mirror kind of what Wayne said. Just looking at the curb work, it looks like there were multiple different crews. You've got different widths where one crew ended and the other one started. They don't match up depth-wise or width-wise, the thickness of the curb. It just, whether it's to spec or not, it just looks bad. So I know you didn't address curbs at all in that, and I'm not sure what can be done about that. There's not a good way to patch that to make that work and make it look right, like a new subdivision you walk up to.
Correct.
People in the business notice that kind of stuff. Maybe the general public doesn't always notice it, but people.
Damage to every person's car that comes in the parking lot that pulls into that curb.
Judge, I did forward this email to our engineer that we use. Can we see what it is?
Well, here's the issue. He's our engineer. Okay, it's kind of like lawyers. If you already have one, you can't get another one to give an opinion. If you've heard something that you'd like to discuss, that'd be fine. I'd like to hear from, if Robert or Gary, if y'all want to add to any of this, I'm open to y'all's comments, but I really think we have a little bit of a conflict if we do it that way. I talked to you about that before, so.
There isn't the alternate solution of going with the repaving. If you do want to go with that route, we really need to look at getting, I think, the as-built survey done in order to verify where the grades are wrong. Because we can eyeball it all we want, but I'm going to assume that the curve is probably correct, because the curve is set with forms, they're going to set spot elevations when they set those forms. So, it's much more likely that the curve is correct and the pavement is wrong.
We spent a lot of time approving things that come through here that were corrections and additions. Some of them we're thinking, that's not our responsibility. I don't want this to cost taxpayers anything else to make the parking lot right.
Well, why should it? I mean,
it shouldn't. We've done that on some smaller, minor things, and I don't want this. I want the corrections to be made, but I don't want it to be our cost.
I agree 100%.
I mean, I agree with you as well, but I mean, if this was your building, wouldn't you want your parking lot done right?
Yes, sir.
And would you feel like you should have to pay for it if the contractor didn't do it right?
Oh, no, there's no question of whose responsibility it is for the cost of this. I mean, it's not the county's responsibility that this work was not performed according to your specifications.
According to your report, about 3/4 of this parking lot didn't even meet the 2-inch minimum. And I know for a fact, because on that side over there, you have an 1/8 inch of asphalt. that I dug out with my foot to prove a point.
Who reviews that report?
What?
Whatever report you're talking about, who looked at it on behalf of Medina County and said this is good to go?
The asphalt coring was done by, I believe, Robert Kistner, who cored for thicknesses and densities of the pavement. So we also know that in addition to some thickness issue, we have some density issue with the compaction. That was part of the issue with the fog seal, because one of the big issue you get with compaction of asphalt is that there's supposed to be air voids in asphalt. When you get too many air voids or not dense enough, you actually get your air voids interconnected, and that starts allowing moisture to move through the pavement rather than just into it and eventually evaporate out. That's another reason why we're looking at the fog seal, is to seal that surface to keep the moisture from percolating down into the interconnected pore spaces.
So, you guys are the experts, that's why.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why.
Been doing all my life.
That's why I brought it to y'all. I told Gary I am not making this decision.
I'm on the same boat. I'm not in the construction business, but if the parking lot is not done correctly, we already settled on the hallway here, I believe. The colors were offset and we kind of settled on leaving it alone, not tearing it apart. Who's going to take responsibility for the parking lot and doing it right, however it is? Obviously, we've heard from the professionals, the ones that have been doing this for a long time, that patching it is not an option. So why would you come to us with that, I mean, instead of just getting it fixed?
Let me give you a little history. So, when this started, after the paving was done, we all walked the parking lot, and the option was taken at that point to see what we could do to salvage the lot as it exists and satisfy the engineer that the parking lot would give you some longevity. And that's taken from that point, which I guess was in January, until today. That's what he's bringing to you, is in his opinion, what it would take to make the parking lot right. We discarded long ago doing a site survey for grading because it's obvious, we already know that's a problem with the parking lot drains. It has maybe 3 places on it that have a small bird bath that dissipate within an hour once the sun comes out. So it's not like, yes, it's not exactly the grade. They understand that. Everybody understood that from the beginning. But it wasn't a question of, do we want them to tear the whole parking lot out because the grades aren't exactly right. It was more of, what can we do to salvage the asphalt paving in place? And in order to do that, we had to do the testing to take the core samples to determine thickness, at least at the location of those cores. If you want to take more, we'd take more. And then what would the engineer's recommendation be to satisfy the lower compaction results? And so that's kind of how we got to where we are today, just to kind of get it settled back to where we are. If that's not what you want to look at, we need to go a whole different direction.
Okay, you kind of hit it right on the head. When we first got here, we knew it wasn't right.
Right.
But we didn't know we had a disastrous job. That's why I call it a disastrous job. After we got test results back, it got worse and worse and worse. Not only did we have the bird baths, I call them, we have asphalt that was not nowhere near put in place. We have compactions now that weren't even coming close. This thing has just grown and grown and grown to a mess. That's when we called in the county engineers. He called me. We do have a county engineer. And I don't know what the conflict of interest would be. He is a paid county engineer. If we hire another engineer are they working for us or are they working for the contractor?
For us. He's working for us because he is RBK's engineer that we are paying. So yes, go ahead.
Bottom line is you have a product that wasn't built to specifications and plans according to what y'all accepted as commissioner's court for the project.
I kind of agree with the auditor. This is not a patch job. We need a real job.
Exactly.
I agree with you 100%.
Who did the original nuclear testing for the paving during the day of the lake?
As we've been able to figure out is that there was no testing done at the time of the installation.
Not acceptable at all. Not industry standard. You know as well as I do. That is not industry standard.
That's correct. There should have been a geotech out here taking density.
Exactly.
Readings, checking the compaction as they go, making sure it has the temperature as it does.
Exactly.
That was not done at the time of this installation.
I'm not trying to lay blame. I'm just saying
Why
something
didn't
was
they do
wrong.
that? Why didn't they do that?
That I do not know.
If that's the industry standard, why didn't they do that?
No idea why they did not do that.
I just want to say, I don't think it's an engineering issue, just to be clear.
Yeah.
No one's debating.
No, he drew a set of plans and specs for us to build it by, and it was not built properly according to engineered plans and specs.
Right.
Hey, that's kind of obvious on this.
I don't mind you talking, I just don't want to get into a conflict. Not you, Wayne.
Oh,
Gary.
Yeah, that's obvious in this exit over here where the base and asphalt 6 inches higher than concrete. I mean, it's kind of obvious that nobody read the damn blueprint, they just do whatever eyeball it. And the problem is we stay on these subdividers rear ends about these roadways and make them do what we want. And we're supposed to just be okay with the parking lot that we own. It doesn't look good to the public. It doesn't look right to the subdividers that, well, damn, you do have butt stuff, but you making me do this.
We're not gonna be around on it.
Exactly. You know.
That parking lot should be a 25-year parking lot with the design that's on it.
What was the cost of the parking lot? Does anybody even know final cost? Curbing and all?
Not at the top of my head, no.
$500,000.
No, not nearly that much, but no.
You know, here we go. We didn't lay down on the terrazzo. You know, we held to our guns, but, you know, I don't know why we should make an exception for a parking lot that, like we all say, our names are on the building. We're gonna hear from the public. After y'all are done and gone, we're still gonna hear about it, unfortunately. You know.
So here's my suggestion, Robert. I think you're hearing what you're hearing. So we're gonna have to go back to the drawing board, and we're gonna have to come back with another plan here. Okay? And we're not gonna take action on this today, unless y'all got some recommendation to do something, but.
I want it redone.
But I think you hear I think it's pretty loud and clear what you hear.
Oh, absolutely, and I hear the concerns, I know the concerns, I know the ADA issues, that's one that should have been spotted earlier. The north entry off of Ann, that was a combination of issues with that, actually, with 13th, the 14th or 13th? 13th up there with the way the existing roadway was, and the city has taken care of it since, but, direction to match existing, obviously that wasn't going to work. And at the time, we kind of left that, if you want to call it that approach area, it's the upper left-hand corner of that picture. Kind of left it as it was, laid it out, not knowing what the city was going to do with the street. We were supposed to match existing, and there was obvious problems, so we kind of just stopped that area.
And that's obvious with that. It was between City Road and that was a whole different ballgame. Now, my next question is, north side of the building where the ADA parking lot spots are, they're higher than they're supposed to.
Well, they're steeper.
They're steeper.
Those are known issues that.
So now you're gonna have to cut that down to flatten it out, or you're gonna have to raise it.
You're gonna build it up on the back.
Okay, so that's gonna alleviate some of your concrete curb issue there, coming up with that. But you're only gonna come up, what, 2 inches, 3 inches?
2.5, 3 inches, yeah.
So that means you still got 9 inches of curb in there.
Well,
Give or take.
That high curve that's over there by the tree, we can do an as-built, survey on it, and see, with the information that's on the plan, or if there's, between points A and B, or A and C, was there a B? I don't know off the top of my head. I can research it, but as-built survey, I don't think it's been suggested, I don't have a problem. There's tolerances, yes, we don't want to get in an argument with that. From the Teal standpoint, yeah, we want to give the county a good product that they're going to like. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's done a job that I haven't had to go back and do remedial work in 24, 25 years now. I've had some kind of issue on the job. Don't get me wrong. Is this a little extreme? Maybe in certain areas, but the ADA, no, that's issue. Then we have to take care of it. That's hands down, no question about it. The unraveling, probably a large portion of it is construction activities continuing, right after the pavement will lay. A lot more heavier equipment and just construction vehicles probably causes the majority of that. But we're just, like the judge said, we're going to put this on the back burner for now until we get another recommendation or more discussion, and leave it at that.
I have a question on the curbing. Y'all were talking about the different sizes it's supposed to be. What is the standard different cars every once in a while, like my son's in the service, so I drive his car every so often, he's a Camry. And so it's different from my car because it's an SUV, so I'll pull up different than what my car is, and it will drag on a curb depending on where I park. So I never know where I'm gonna park, so it happens and I don't know what to expect from where I'm parking. And so I don't know what I'm gonna get.
Standard is a 6-inch average curb height. I mean, I've seen it, heard it for as long as I've been driving. People, cars, they get damaged by a wheel stop. That's kind of depending on the car. I don't know, do they build cars to accept or clear 6-inch curb, which is generally accepted standard of 6 inches?
Right.
Not stops in there.
4 or 5 inches usually for wheel stop.
What's a wheel stop? I'm sorry.
Parking buffer, so that you, we generally use for something like an ADA space to make sure that the vehicle doesn't pull out so that they're out over the sidewalk and blocking the ADA path.
Okay.
Those are usually 4 to 5 inches. In my wife's car, we'll bottom out on one of the 5-inch ones.
Gina, you're just worried about that first big step, right?
Yeah. Because it's hard to achieve. Well, I don't think that's on my son's car when he comes back. What you mean?
So, let's get back to the drawing board and we'll get back on it, all right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. All right, next we have discussed a possible action on approval of change orders and other matters regarding the construction of the courthouse annex and jail addition. So, the first one is a request for change order. We had to do something in the kitchen. Since Mr. McClure's here, I'm going to let him explain these.
Can you read what it says? I know which one it's on.
Can you just hand it to you?
This is the fire protection system that goes under the kitchen hoods. It's to be moved during the course of construction, and it wasn't picked up by any contractor in the pricing, so Teal was asked to use their contingency, some of their contingency for that.
And let them know how much contingency we still have going on both, between both jobs.
400,000 or 500,000, as I recall. Is that right?
The last time I checked, it was about 500,000.
Okay.
Second one.
The second one.
Here, just take a picture.
The second one is a similar situation. There's a mow strip underneath the security fence. It's really a curb that, as I recall, the fence goes down into and is buried into the concrete so that inmates, when they're in a secure area, can't burrow out underneath the fence. And that was not picked up during the bid process that I verified, both in looking at the bid documents of the subcontractor for the fence and the subcontractor for the concrete. So Teal is asked to use money again out of the contingency to include that work into the price.
So in other words, it wasn't done right, they want us to pay the difference.
It wasn't picked up.
That's not exactly right.
Yeah, well, I'm the passing buck thing, just go back on the other one. Well, people start driving, won't drive one. We didn't hire everybody out there for us, each commissioner, to come inspect every single aspect of every job.
That's correct.
I mean, BK, RBK, we hired them to do something right, and it wasn't done right. We don't want to sit here and be blamed for stuff that was done wrong in the field as commissioners. That wasn't our job either. If we're not, let us know, we'll be there.
Well, this work hasn't been done.
Well, it needs to be.
This is work that.
Why should we have to pay for something? They did the job.
You negotiated the job, This is a normal process on negotiated work. And it's the reason that they have a contingency. And the contingency belongs to them. And it's within the guaranteed maximum price. They are not exceeding the price they gave you to finish the job. They are advising you that they're using some of their money in contingency to spend on the job. That's their obligation. Your obligation is to say, okay, we understand that.
They got the max. They're not going over the max.
Yeah.
What's happening? So they had a 3.5% or 4% contingency when they bid the job for things like this. So it's part of the normal process that this is happening, because on a $26 million job, there are going to be some things that.
Oh, I can understand that, but this is not $26 million.
20,000.
Exactly.
It's a mow strip that needs to be done. That's the problem. So it has to be done. And it's coming out of their contingency that is part of the job.
Yeah, it's not a change order grabbed by a
No.
change in the contract amount, it's a contingency use request.
Right.
There are two for the project, I think one is an owner betterment, if that's the right terminology, and then there's contractor contingency.
There's a lot of contracts where what I was more used to seeing as a contract where the contractor has a contingency because they never talk to the owner about whether he uses it or not. You don't even know till the end of the job when he gives you money back or he doesn't give you money back, as long as he stays under a G-max. In this case, during the negotiation process, the counsel for the county said, well, that's fine, we want them to have the contingency, but we want to know how they're using it. So that's why these are coming.
That's clean. Okay, what's the next one? Is there another one?
There's,
There was one more than credit.
yes. Oh, yeah. So the next one is a credit back where, and this credit will go to the owner's betterment fund, and it's where the fencing, length of fencing was actually reduced after looking at it in the field with the sheriff and with Keith and the architect. They reduced the quantity of fencing that they'd need for the project, so that's what that credit's for. And then the next one is, again, this comes out of Teal's contingency, and it's to add some CMU pilasters inside the building, an opening where the two buildings come together, and they cut a new opening there, and the architect didn't provide for any continuity between the two. So this is required in order.
It's where the new building hits the old building.
Through the cutout. And then the second part of that is to raise the walls in the in the men's housing exercise area. They come up currently just underneath the steel beam, and there's a gap between there and the roof deck, and they want to raise those walls up to the roof deck, even though they're that high up.
You walk in there, if they had a basketball, they can technically throw it through the.
Throw it to the measurement.
And not that they can escape through it, because they'd have to be some type of super Spider-Man to get there, but there is the opportunity for them to discard things up in that roof area, and we technically, it would just be better for closing.
The problem is, we looked at this job and the contractor going, if they did everything that there was to perfection and left nothing out, then that contingency money, we're going to get that back. They're not going to use that. But as it turns out on a job of this scope, there are things
that's not quite the case, but I understand what you're saying.
I think that's how we viewed it.
Right. Well,
so as it turns out, there are things that get left out on a job that's this big, and they have that contingency to take care of those.
That's what it's for.
And so we see it trickling away, and we look at it as extra things that we're paying for, when in reality it was all in the bid.
I agree. It's trickling. I understand that, and I'm spending an inordinate amount of time trying to turn that trickle down as far as I can.
I appreciate that. Gary has done a tremendous job of keeping that trickle down.
It's, you know, the reason you have contingency is because even the architects and designers aren't perfect, obviously, by the opening where they don't have any continuity between the two buildings. So in the old days, before they did these type of contracts, that was a pure change order. And nobody liked each other when it was over because you thought you had a price, and the contractor thought he had a set of documents to build by. This is a small example. And then you came into where the design errors were, and then everybody gets mad at everybody, but you end up paying for the change order. So the state saw that as problematic years ago, in 1998, and they changed the whole system of contracting that allowed you to do what we're doing here, where you have a contingency. It's within a whole guaranteed price structure that you've approved. You've basically said, we've agreed to spend this much money if that's what it takes. On the other side, it's everybody's job, including Teal's, to try to make sure they don't overspend that and that they stay under that. I mean, it's to their benefit not to overspend it because they lose money if they do. But yes, you're correct.
If they don't spend it, then it's ours.
That's
we
correct.
see that going away.
I understand that. I totally get that.
When we negotiated the contract up front, and Clay was on our side doing it, one of the things we negotiated with them was what would be their contingency percent.
Right.
And so Clay and Fields Council agreed on whatever it was, 3.5% or 4%. And so that number goes in because when you're building a building, like you build a house. Tell me you've ever built a house that somebody didn't change things. And now we're on a big building, and there's going to be things that are missed, and that's why we have the contingency is for that. At the end of the day, are we going to get money back? Yes. We're probably still, okay, Gary crossed his finger, but yeah, we're at $500,000 right now to the good, and jail is kind of the last part of it here. We're not leaving yet. We can hold off. All right?
I'm gonna leave them here.
Do you have a lunch date or something?
We kind of do, yeah, they do got meetings.
Okay,
Just
well, hold on.
quit listening.
Hold up.
Just to clarify what I said earlier about the parking lot,
Yeah.
I would like to not see that come out of the contingency. I
It's
see
not.
it as
No,
a
that is not something that will come out of the contingency. These are things that need to come out of the contingency, okay?
Okay,
So-
this last one, sorry, the last one is the ceramic tile. So in the new kitchen area in the food prep area, which is the addition on the kitchen at the jail, the finish schedule called for painted block walls. They realized that should have been ceramic tile. The architect recognized, well, actually Teal brought it up. The architect recognized it should have been ceramic tile. They did not want to come to you with what would have been a pretty significant change order. So the architect, to his credit, scrambled around, searched through the plans, and found that they had ceramic tile in the staff shower areas. Is that correct?
Yes.
In the staff shower areas, and that there just happened to be enough of that material to do what needed to be done in the kitchen. So we virtually swapped the ceramic tile from one area to another and put the paint that was in the kitchen area into the shower area. And so this change order is to use epoxy grout in the tile joints in the kitchen for hygiene reasons. It's a better grout product. So that's why we pursued that and did the work that way.
Any other questions? I need a motion.
I make a motion that we approve. Second.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Motion is second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have we're going to go into executive session under Texas Government Code 551087, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations. So if I could have y'all step out for a second, and if you're stepping out and not coming back, thanks for coming. So we're back out in open session, and we're going to take any action from executive session.
I make a motion that we authorize Judge Schuhart to negotiate a tax abatement agreement with Volta.
Okay.
Volta Inc.
Volta.
I'll just say
Volta sounds good.
Okay.
VOLTA?
VOLTA, not Pilati.
And not Pilates.
Volta,
Volta,
yes.
with a B or a B?
VOLTA,
Okay.
like volt in electricity.
It's not gonna be like a car dealer.
No, we don't have a plugging station in Medina County, so we can't have electric cars. favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have board member announcements.
We are really busy, we're catching up, and I want to thank everybody that helped with the fire. I think it was a lesson learned in many ways of what we need to do to move forward.
I want to thank everybody. We just about finished up most of all of our paving on our redistricting. We're out redistricting, all that's paved, David. And I want to thank for all the employees that showed up. We paved another 2 miles yesterday or the day before. I got severe tongue lashing for paving a road. This lady wanted a dirt road. I said, your road is not paved.
She didn't call me yet.
Oh yeah, she would call me all kind of things. I figured she'd call you anyhow.
She did, so that's good.
It's surprising how often that happens.
Yeah, dude, I was not asked to be on that, have paved road. We got one now.
Yeah. So Precinct 2 is working hard. We are not catching up, but we're working hard.
And for me, we need to have a short, very short meeting. Look at your calendar for either next, maybe Tuesday at 1:30. We can do it next Monday morning at 8 o'clock. Well, I got one just one in the afternoon. Who you want to see?
All right, Captain, go down.
All right.
We gonna sit together?
No. No. So we we can do it, let's do it Tuesday afternoon at 1:30. Is everybody good on that day?
Can we add
It will be a 15-minute,
well, I'm thinking we're gonna be here, can we add
a workshop?
for subdivision?
We can, Jennifer. At a
When
workshop.
we gonna do that?
Tuesday.
On the
Tuesday
12th?
at 1:30.
The 12th?
It is the 12th.
Okay, what time is our workshop?
1:30. We'll start at 1:30 for the meeting, and then we will go right into a workshop on subdivisions. Okay?
Okay.
And Jennifer, you have notes on those subdivisions? Because we're
Yes.
kind of all getting old up here. We don't remember stuff.
Yes.
All right. Second thing, y'all probably, if you watch, depending on which news you watch, the governor yesterday said, I went to Uvalde, had a meeting with judges from all over. The governor was there, and he announced to us that we are going today to start shipping illegals to Washington, D.C. So,
I got a license, I can drive.
So, Nim Kid was there. Nim Kid has worked out with a whole bunch of busing companies. And the thing is, when you start stopping them and arresting them, call Nim Kid and he'll send a bus down and they'll take, I think a bus will hold 40. And they're going to give them a 2-day free trip to Washington, D.C. to see the USA and food. And of course, the buses are nice, plus they got bathrooms on them and
Air conditioning.
air conditioning.
You can with salt,
No bucket stoppers. But, so I called the sheriff and said, Sheriff, I don't know the logistics of this, but this is what's going to happen. And so the sheriff called him and basically, the sheriff will, he arrests them, he takes them to the processing center, and once they're processed, they get on a bus and take them off. So that is, it's supposedly starting today. I guess we'll hear from the geniuses in D.C.
All I can tell you is when it hit the fan,
Well, they were talking on Fox News about dropping them off in front of our border czar's house, the vice president, so she can know what they look like.
Yeah.
Since she's never been to the border, but today there's other announcements coming in that have to do with the high-speed chases that they're having. I mean, the sheriff had 2 yesterday, just so y'all. And in Uvalde, in Del Rio, and Kenny, they have them more frequent. But we're having them here daily. And so the governor's got some other things he's doing about that. He also said that he's continuing to build a wall. The problem is having ranchers to allow, a lot of ranchers say build it because they're tired of people coming through, but they're still building it. So that's the only new news I got. But it's fun. You're right, it's gonna hit the next.
It's gonna hit the fan.
Next month.
In Bandera, Texas tonight.
Huh?
Bandera, Texas tonight.
Oh, you're going to Bend.
Are you gonna go?
Anybody?
Good, no, I'm gonna try.
The debate, I think, between Raul and Pete, is that what you said? Okay.
See what rules gonna give away tonight.
Anyway, so with that, we are adjourned, and thank y'all for coming.
Okay, we'll go to your office.
Yeah, okay.
Done, dude. I'll watch.